Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Lab 207 webcast. My name is Mr. Kite, and I'll be hanging out with you today as we continue on in our series about ecology. Topic for the day is going to be terrestrial biomes. So in an effort to make this relatively short, let's go ahead and get going. First thing I need you to know by the end of this video is to be able to explain the connection between the environmental conditions and the biotic composition of a biome. Second, describe the major terrestrial biomes. That's what we got. Let's go ahead and start chatting. First thing I need to talk about, and forgive the grainy picture, environment and evolution. Throughout the rest of this video, we're going to talk about different types of biomes. And one of the things that I need you to understand is that environmental conditions in an area drives the evolution and the adaptation of plants and animals in that area. Also, you need to recognize that similar environments cause similar adaptation. So an example of this would be the cactus and a plant called the euphorbia. In really dry biomes, such as the American Southwest, we have cacti, which you've probably seen all the pictures of big old huge saguaro cacti with spines and all that stuff. That would be the American version. In the eastern areas, so maybe towards China or down in South America, they've got plants called euphorbs, which are only very distantly related to cacti, but they look a lot like cacti. The plant you've got there on the picture is a euphorb. So because the environment of these areas are the same, plants need to conserve water and protect themselves from predators. They have come up with similar adaptations. So know that even though plants in two similar biomes might be, looking the same or have similar adaptations, they may not necessarily be related to one another, and that similarity is driven by evolution in response to the conditions of their environment. You also need to know that abiotic conditions drive biome classification. So the temperature and the precipitation particularly are the things that determine which plants are able to grow in an area, and biomes are classified according to the plants that grow in the area. So indirectly, this means that the temperature and precipitation determine the characteristics of a given biome. And last thing before we go ahead and jump on into our biomes, you need to recognize this chart here on the right. This is called a climatogram, and a climatogram describes the average conditions of a biome, and they always show two different types of data. They give you the temperature, usually in Celsius, and the rainfall in centimeters. So you can see the top line there, that is the line showing the average temperature, and the bars show you the rainfall. Along the bottom, you'll see some letters, J, F, M, A, M. Those are the months of the year. So for each month of the year, they're giving you the average precipitation and the average temperature in an area. As long as that temperature line is above the precipitation line, then the plant growth in that area is constrained by precipitation. If the precipitation goes over the temperature line, then the plant growth is usually constrained by the temperature. So without me talking anymore, I'm going to go ahead and start ticking through our biomes. Try to catch the characteristics of each, and here we go. So the first biome you need to know about is going to be the tundra. We're basically going to start at the North Pole and work our way south. Characteristics of a tundra that you need to know is they are cold. Their growing season is extremely short. They are treeless. It's too cold and they don't get enough precipitation to support the growth of trees. They do have small shrubs. They have lichens. They have mosses. They have some grasses. They have permafrost, which is a layer of soil that is continuously frozen and doesn't allow the penetration of roots or anything like that. So every year in the tundra, during the summer season, which is very short, the top maybe foot of the soil might thaw out to where plants can grow very quickly, but anything below that foot stays frozen, and that is known as permafrost. And the places where this is usually found is in the Arctic, northern Russia, and northern Canada. Next biome you've got is the Boreal forest, also known as the Taiga. This would be moving south a little bit. This region is characterized by conifers, which are like evergreen trees. They have very cold winters. They got short growing seasons and poor soil. They're present in Europe, Russia, and North America, mostly Canada. And these areas obviously get enough precipitation that they can support forests, they can support trees, but the trees are still adapted to minimize water loss. They've got needles, which lose a lot less water than do big old broad leaves. And then moving on from our Boreal forest, we have got a Temperate rainforest. Now these biomes are pretty rare. They're found on the North American west coast from like Northern California up to Alaska, found in New Zealand, part of Australia, and Chile. They've got a moderate temperature, really high precipitation, a 12-month growing season, and these are the places that have got really giant, huge trees. So like the giant sequoias that you hear about in America, those are part of the temperate rainforest. They're going to be very green, highly productive. During the winter, they are foggy. During the summer, they are rainy. So they are considered a rainforest, but they're not a tropical rainforest. Next up, we've got the temperate seasonal forest. Now, this is going to be moving south. Places where this is found commonly is it's found throughout Europe, the American East Coast, parts of China, and these places are characterized by warm summers. They got cold winters. The big thing about them is deciduous trees. So the trees in these areas are going to put out leaves that they will drop every fall, and then they will have no leaves throughout the winter. That is to protect them from freezing and from water loss, and then as spring comes back on, they grow their leaves and go through the cycle again. Because they drop those leaves every year and the trees and the leaves have a chance to decompose, the soils are pretty good in a temperate seasonal forest, and historically these forests have been cleared for farming and agriculture because their soils are very good. Settlers did this throughout New England and also throughout Europe. Now we're going to back the rain off a little bit, and we're going to talk about a woodland slash shrubland. This is also known as chaparral. It can be known as a Mediterranean climate. It goes by many names, but this area is characterized by hot, dry summers, mild, rainy winters. It is scrubby. There aren't a whole lot of trees, but there's a lot of bushes and shrubs. You might find some cacti. The plants that live in these areas are fire tolerant. If you hear about California's got big old wildfires every year, that would be happening in this sort of biome. These biomes are also good for the growth of things like grapes for wine and olives. So think about California, the California hills, the Hollywood sign. That is an example of chaparral. The temperate grassland slash cold desert is found all the way across the middle of North America and across Central Asia. It has got occasionally the lowest precipitation. They have really harsh winters, hot summers, but they do have very fertile soils. A lot of temperate grasslands, especially in America, have been converted into farmland. That's because every summer all that grass grows up, and then in the winter it dies and decomposes and adds a lot of nutrients to the soil. So remember, associate this land as the most fertile, most productive soil. So it's often used as farming. Obviously it's characterized by grasses. Depending on how much rain the grassland gets, the grasses will be really tall, they will be really short. Got the tropical rainforest, and we are nearing the end, a couple more to go. So tropical rainforest, here are the things you need to know. Obviously it is warm, it is very wet. These areas get the most rain of any of the biomes. They don't really have seasons. They might fluctuate between like a dry time and a wetter time, but they don't really go hot or cold or anything like that. They got pretty much a 12-month growing season. They are highly productive because of the warm temperatures and all the rain. They have the highest productivity of any of the biomes, but because things are growing so quickly, anything that falls to the soil and decomposes is rapidly taken back up into the vegetation. So all of the nutrients in a tropical rainforest are found in the trees and the vegetation, and the soils are very, very poor. One of the problems that tropical rainforests have is slash and burn agriculture, where people will cut down the forest, they will burn the area, they will farm the land for like 1 or 2 years, and then because the soil is no good, it becomes unproductive and they have to move on to another place. Tropical rainforests are also characterized by layered vegetation, which means there's like an understory and a middle story and then a canopy over the top. You've got the tropical seasonal forest, also known as the savanna. These are characterized by warm temperatures. They have a wet season and a dry season. They've got deciduous trees. They look a lot like grasslands, but they have got enough precipitation that occurs every year that they can support the growth of trees. And anytime you think of savanna, just kind of associate this with like your typical Lion King scene of Africa. Last year biomes is going to be the subtropical desert. These are characterized by hot temperatures. They are extremely dry, sparse vegetation. They've got drought-tolerant plants, the Mojave in America, Sahara, Gobi in China. All of those are your typical subtropical deserts, and that's it. I've rambled through 9 biomes. I hope you got a better handle on the things that characterize what is able to live in a biome. Thanks for joining us on the Lab 207 webcast. My name is Mr. Kite. We'll see you again.